The slave market on Zareth Prime smelled like oil, heat, and old blood, beneath a burning orange sky. Hundreds of cages were lined up in rows. Creatures of all kinds sat behind iron bars. Some were silent, some screamed, some stared at nothing. Traders shouted prices, buyers argued. And guards with electric sticks walked between the cages. But in the last row, near the trash piles, sat a cage most people ignored. Inside it, a woman knelt on the floor, her arms chained, her ankles bruised. Her skin was a soft violet color that shimmered in the light. Her golden eyes looked half-closed, like she hadn't slept in days. Her long silver-white hair was tangled and dirty, but even in filth, she looked beautiful, like something that didn't belong there. Most buyers had walked past her, too thin, looks broken, too wild, dangerous. But she didn't. Speak not until he arrived. A lone human man stepped into the market. He wore a thick coat, goggles on his head, and a blaster at his side. Dust clung to his boots. His name was Callan, and he wasn't there to buy slaves. He came to fix a cargo ship nearby, but when he passed her cage, he felt her eyes on him like a quiet scream. He turned, she stared straight at him, and for the first time she spoke. Her voice was dry but clear, like cracked crystal. "Buy my chains," she said softly, "and break them, please." Callan froze. She slowly lifted her head. Her voice trembled now, but her eyes burned. "I will give you strong children. More," she whispered. The crowd around them laughed. One trader slapped his knee. "She's crazy human. Her people are gone. Some lab mistake or royal failure, who knows? No one wants her," another shouted. "Give us your credits. She'll be dead in 2 cycles anyway." But Callan didn't laugh. He stepped closer. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then lowered her head again. "No name, not anymore." Turned to the trader. "How much?" The trader blinked. "You serious?" Callan nodded. The trader scratched his chin. "For you. 1,000 credits. Final price." "Too high. Way too high for a worthless slave." But Callan didn't argue. He pulled out his scanner and paid a small beep. The chains released. The trader opened the cage and pushed the woman forward. She fell too weak to stand, but Callan caught her before she hit the ground. "Don't worry," the trader said with a smirk. "She's yours now. Do what you want." Callan didn't answer. He lifted her in his arms and walked away, ignoring the whispers behind him. Inside Callan's small ship, the Rustwing, the woman sat quietly on a padded bed. She had been cleaned. The bruises on her face were healing. Her clothes were still simple, a plain tunic and soft robe, but they were hers. She didn't speak for a long time. Callan gave her food, water, and then sat near the door, not too close. Finally, she looked at him. "You didn't chain me?" "No, you didn't." "Touch me?" "No." She frowned. "But I said I would give you children. I made a trade." Callan shook his head. "You're not something to trade. You're someone." She blinked, confused. "But I was sold. You bought me." He leaned forward. "I saw someone who needed help. I didn't buy you. I rescued you." She didn't know how to respond. Her people had always been treated like tools. For science, for power, for breeding. Never like someone. He stood. "Rest, you're safe here," she called out quickly. "Wait." He stopped. She lowered her head. "Do I get a name now?" He turned and looked at her for a long moment, then smiled. "Yes," he said. "You do." He walked over to a panel and typed something. A small bracelet appeared from the dispenser. He handed it to her. The name on it read, Aurelia. She touched it with shaking. Ingers. Aurelia. She had a name again. He said softly, "Sleep tomorrow, we figure out what comes next." He walked out of the room and closed the door gently behind him. She sat in the quiet, staring at the name on her wrist. For the first time in years, she felt something strange in her chest. Not fear, not anger, hope, but far across the stars. In a dark room lined with machines, a red light blinked. A signal had been sent from the market. Hidden in her chain, and something, was coming for her. Asterisk. The first thing she noticed when she woke was silence. No shouting. No chains. No cold floor. No barked orders. Aurelia opened her eyes slowly. She was lying on a soft bed, not luxurious, but clean and warm. A thin blanket covered her legs. A folded piece of clothing sat beside her, along with a small cup of water and something that smelled like food. Her fingers moved to her. Wrists no cuffs, her ankles no bindings. Her body froze. This was wrong. She had been bought. This was supposed to be another cage, or worse. She sat up quickly, chest rising fast. Ready to run, but the door was already open. Callan stood outside, leaning on the wall, arms crossed, holding a steaming cup of something. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched her with calm eyes. She expected him to bark at her, to give her a task, to point to the floor and say, "Kneel." But he just said, "Morning." She stared at him. Then at the cup beside her, he spoke again slowly. "It's not poison, I promise." She still didn't move. Callan gave a small shrugged. "You don't have to trust me. Just eat when you're ready." He turned and walked away down the hallway. Aurelia sat there for several minutes, still cautious, still waiting for pain. None came. She finally reached for the food. A soft cube of protein bread and some red fruit. Then took a bite. Her eyes watered, warm, sweet, real. She hadn't tasted anything real in years. Later, she walked through the ship slowly, bare feet on the smooth floor. The ship wasn't big, rusted in some places. It's old but cared for. Clean. Callan sat at a control panel, working on some exposed wires. He glanced up. "You feeling okay?" She nodded once. "Water's in the next room. If you need clothes, check the locker to your left." She looked around. "You are not like the others." Callan raised a brow. "Other humans?" She shook her head. "Other buyers." "I told you I'm not a buyer, then why?" "Did you take me?" He didn't answer right away, finished twisting a wire, then sat back with a sigh. "Because when I looked at you," he said slowly, "you looked like someone who hadn't been treated like a person in a long time." She didn't know what to say. No one had ever cared about what she looked like inside. She lowered her voice. "I made you a promise, in the cage. I told you I would give you children if you bought my chains." Callan nodded. "I remember." "Still want that?" He looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "No." She tilted her head. "Why?" He smiled, just a little. "Because I want something different." Her heart skipped. "What?" "I want you to heal first. Eat. Rest. Be human again. Or whatever your people are called. I'm not here to use you. I just saw someone who didn't deserve what was happening." She sat down across from him. "My people were not kind to yours," she said softly. "I've seen what humans can do. Stories say you burn planets and don't blink." He looked at her without anger. "Some do, but not all." Aurelia's eyes dropped to her hands. "When I said I'd give you strong children, I thought maybe that would make me useful. If I wasn't useful, I'd be thrown away." Callan leaned forward. "You're already useful. You're alive." She felt her throat tighten. Suddenly, a sharp noise echoed through the ship. Callan stood instantly. Proximity alert. He ran to the console. Aurelia followed. A small red light blinked on the screen. "Someone just pinged us," he said. It came from the old market station. Her face turned pale. "They found me." "Who?" "I don't know, but someone always does." Callan stared at the screen. The signal wasn't just a ping. It was a tracker pulse, short, hidden inside a cargo relay. Something had been broadcasting from his ship since they left. He ran a scan. A small object was embedded in the bracelet she wore. He walked over, knelt, and held out his hand. "May I?" She hesitated, then slowly took the bracelet off and handed it to him. He cracked it open. Inside was a microscopic tracker. "Buried under her name?" Aurelia whispered. They never wanted me free. Callan crushed the tracker under his boot. Too bad, he muttered. You are now. But as he turned off the console, another screen lit up on its own. A dark face appeared, helmeted. Distorted, a voice came through. Return the girl, or be destroyed. Callan didn't blink. He reached slowly for his blaster, then looked at Aurelia. Still want to stay free? She stood beside him. Yes, even if it kills me. The face on the screen did not blink. It wore a smooth black helmet with no eyes, no mouth. Only a red glow pulsed from the center, like a cold heart. Callan stared at it. His finger hovered near the weapon switch. The voice returned, deep and mechanical. Return the girl, or die beside her. Aurelia stepped closer, her voice steady. Who sent you? There was silence. Then the blood must not awaken. The last core must remain buried. The screen shut off. A cold silence filled. The ship. Callan turned slowly. What does that mean? Blood must not awaken? Aurelia looked pale, her hand shaking slightly. She didn't answer right away. Callan moved closer. Aurelia, you know something. Who are you really? She sat down, eyes on the floor, speaking. Quietly, they told you. I was part of a dying race. But that's not true. My race is already dead. Callan frowned. Then what are you? She looked up at him, and for the first time, there was fire in her eyes. I'm the last of the Vellery core-blooded. Not royalty, not soldiers. We were something else. We reached into her robe and pulled out a small crystal shard. Dark, cracked, but glowing faintly. She placed it on the table. This was inside me, she said. It's buried under my skin since I was a child. Callan leaned in. What does it do? It's not a weapon, she whispered. It's a key. To what? To the ships. To the codes. To something lost when my people were hunted down. She looked away. I didn't know what it was at first. But the Empire did. That's why they didn't kill me. That's why they kept me locked away, sold me, passed me from cage to cage. Not because I was useless, but because I was dangerous. Sat back, stunned. You were carrying this your whole life. She nodded, double quotes. And the people after you, they want to destroy it. They want to erase me, she said, because if I live long enough, I might wake something they can't control. Callan rubbed his face. Okay, then we don't let them catch you. She looked at him quiet. Still want to help? Me. He looked straight into her golden eyes. I didn't save you to give you back. She swallowed hard. Suddenly the ship shook. Callan jumped to the controls. They found us. Outside, through the window, a dark ship approached. No lights, no signal. Just black metal and silent motion. Their jamming comes, he said. No help coming. Aurelia touched the crystal. It pulsed. She stood slowly, eyes closed. Callan glanced at her. What are you doing? Her voice was calm, listening. The crystal warmed in her palm, and then she whispered something not in English, not in any human tongue. The ship outside froze mid-space. Callan's eyes widened. What did you see? Duh! I called part of it back, she said, opening her eyes. That ship, it runs on old Vellery code. It's still bonded to me. She stepped toward the window. Her voice shook, but she stood tall. I'm not just a slave, she said. I'm part of the blood that built them. I am the last spark they couldn't burn. Callan stared at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. But then, the ship outside began to power up again. Aurelia gasped. Another override. Callan cursed. Someone's taken remote control. A second enemy signal came through, this time from deep space. Too late. The girl's gift dies with her. Missiles launched from the enemy vessel. Callan grabbed Aurelia's arm. Run. They raced to the cockpit. Callan hit the emergency thrusters. Rustwing shot downward, dodging the first blast. The second exploded behind them, shaking the ship hard. Sparks flew. Aurelia fell. Callan pulled her up with one hand and took the controls with the other. You all right? She nodded, but she was bleeding from the shoulder. It doesn't matter. We can't outrun them. He looked at her. Then we don't outrun. We outsmart. He opened a secret compartment. Inside was an old Earth-made pulse bomb. "Hold tight," he muttered. He flew the ship directly toward a nearby asteroid field. The enemy chased as the asteroid belt came into view. Callan activated the bomb and threw it out the back of the ship. The moment the enemy passed over it, boom. The pulse exploded, cutting off their sensors. Rustwing vanished into the rocks, breathing hard. Callan slowed the ship behind a large asteroid. They waited in silence. Aurelia's breathing slowed. She looked at him through the smoke and chaos. "You should have left me," she whispered. He looked back at her. "No," he said. "I just found you. And whatever you carry, crystal, code, or curse, you're not alone anymore." A tear ran down her cheek, the first one that wasn't from fear. Asterisk. Smoke filled the cockpit. Sparks fell from the ceiling like fireflies. Aurelia pressed her hand to her shoulder wound. The bleeding had slowed, but her strength was fading. Crystal still clutched tightly in her palm, pulsed with a dim golden light. The kit's warmth was the only thing keeping her calm. Callan's hands moved fast across the controls. His face was set, jaw clenched, eyes locked on the radar. He had flown through asteroid belts before, but not while carrying a bleeding alien woman. "Being hunted by machines built to kill, they're scanning again," he said. "We have about 2 minutes before they find us." Aurelia coughed. "Then leave me. Take the escape pod. Go. They only want me." Callan turned his head slowly. His voice was calm, but sharp. "No, you don't get to say that anymore." She blinked. "You think you're still in a cage?" he continued. "But you're not. Not while you're on my ship. Not while I'm alive." Aurelia looked at him. His words, they didn't sound like orders. They sounded like a vow. But he raised his voice. "I didn't pull you out of chains to throw you back. You run with me, or we die together. That's the deal." Aurelia was silent. Then she whispered, "Then I run." Callan smiled slightly. "Good." He slammed a button on the console. The engines flared back to life, lighting up the asteroid shadows. The ship shook as it jumped into motion, weaving through rock fields and metal shards. Behind them, Hunter's ship powered forward again, faster now, tracking them like a predator. Callan pushed the thrusters harder. The Rustwing wasn't fast, but it was clever. "I'm going to drop heat decoys," he muttered. "You make sure that crystal of yours doesn't start glowing like a beacon." Aurelia nodded. She focused on the crystal in her hand. It pulsed faster when danger neared, almost like it had a heartbeat of its own. "They're closing in," she said. "I can feel it." Callan narrowed his eyes. "Then it's time to make them feel us." He flipped a final switch. The decoys fired from the ship's belly, hundreds of glowing, spinning lights that bounced off asteroids and confused scanners. The enemy ship hesitated, slowed just enough. Callan spun the Rustwing sideways and pulled it into a narrow tunnel carved into a hollow asteroid. The walls were tight. A single mistake, and they'd crash. But he moved like the ship was an extension of his body. Aurelia stared at him. "You've done this before." He didn't take his eyes off the controls. "Once, during a smuggling run."
Nice.
"Do it again?" "Why?" He glanced at her and smirked. "'Cause it's stupid." They burst out the far end of the tunnel, just as the Hunter ship entered it. Callan hit the afterburners. Seconds later, the enemy ship exited too, but its wing clipped the edge of the rock. A shockwave of metal and fire followed it. "They're limping," Callan said. "We've got a chance." But Aurelia shook her head. "No, they're calling backup. I can feel it. More will come." One stared forward, then opened the long range. Scanner, she was right. 3 more pings, fast-moving, war-ready. He cursed under his breath. "We need to disappear." Aurelia's eyes suddenly lit up. "There's a place. My people used to hide there. It's not on maps," they called it. "Valus Fold." He typed it in. Nothing came up. "Coordinates." She closed her eyes. The crystal warmed in her palm. Then, numbers filled her mind. She spoke them aloud. "Callan, entered them into the nav system. The ship blinked, paused, then displayed. Danger. Unknown space. No return route available. He looked at her. Are you sure? She whispered. It's better than being hunted? He nodded. Then let's vanish. He punched the command. The ship trembled. Lights flickered. Then boom. Rustwing jumped into hyperspace. Silence. They floated now in a dark stretch of space. No stars, no signals, just dust and memory. Aurelia looked out the window. It's real, she whispered. We made it. Callan leaned back. In the pilot chair, exhausted. You still bleeding?
Ow.
She checked her shoulder. No, not badly. He got up and fetched a medical kit. As he cleaned her wound, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy, but peaceful. She looked at him. Why do you care so much? She asked. You don't even know me. He paused, then said softly, because no one cared when I needed help. And I remember what that felt like. Aurelia touched his hand. I wasn't meant to be saved. He looked into her eyes. Maybe not, but I saved you anyway. Aurelia woke with a gasp. Her hands clutched the edge of the blanket, and sweat ran down her temple. She sat up slowly, eyes wide, breath shaking. The dream still clung to her, a soft voice calling her name in the dark, but it wasn't her name. The voice said, it said Mama. She pressed her hand to her chest. Not a dream. A memory. She got up quietly, walking barefoot down the dim hallway of the ship. Rustwing floated in the dark of Vela's fold, safe, hidden, alone. She found Callan in the small cockpit, fixing a power cable. He looked tired but focused. You okay? He asked without turning around. She hesitated. I need to tell you. Something. He stopped working and looked at her. She sat beside him, her eyes lost in the stars. Before I was captured. Before the labs and the chains, I had a child. Callan didn't speak. I never told you because I wasn't sure if he was alive. I still don't know, but I can feel it. He's out there, somewhere. I feel it in my blood. What happened? He asked gently. She closed her eyes. I was taken by the ones who wanted to test my body. They said my blood could unlock new powers. They mixed my DNA with another being. A strong one. A perfect one. Callan frowned. What kind of being she turned? Toward him. A human. His face changed. I never saw the donor. They never told me who it was, she said. But the child. He was born early. They said he was weak. They took him away. Said he wouldn't survive. She stared into the black window ahead. But I never felt him die. I kept feeling him like a soft light in the dark. Like part of me still breathing somewhere else. Callan. Look down at the floor, and you think he's alive? I know he is, she whispered. They hid him. Maybe even sold him like they sold me. Silence filled the room. Callan stood and walked to the console. I think I found something. Earlier today, but I didn't show you. He tapped the screen and opened a saved file. A blurry image appeared, a photo, taken from a surveillance cam on a trade station orbiting the core fracture zone. It showed a boy no older than 7, thin, with soft violet skin, and bright gray eyes. Aurelia's hand flew to her mouth. That's him, the image zoomed in. The boy was holding a piece of metal scrap, looking around like he was searching for something, or someone. I picked up this signal while checking for threats, Callan said. Didn't think much of it, but now. Her voice trembled. He has my skin. But those eyes. They're not Velarai, they're human, Callan finished. The realization hit her like fire. They used you, she whispered. They stole your DNA. You're the other half. Callan backed up. What? She stood slowly, almost shaking. You're his father, Callan. He stared at her in silence. She took his hand and placed it on the crystal she always carried. It glowed brighter when it touched his skin, not with danger, but with recognition. He's yours. He's ours. Callan sat down, stunned. All this time, Aurelia nodded. We were strangers, chained by fate, broken by the same enemy. But they created something they couldn't control. Callan stood again. Where was this taken? Trade Station X-29, he said. 3 systems from here. Not heavily guarded, but full of slavers, mercs, black market breeders. Then we go now, she said. But before Callan could answer, the ship's alert lit up red. Incoming transmission. Encrypted source? He opened it. Voice only. We have the child. If you want him, surrender the girl. 1 life for another. The voice shut off. No coordinates, no name. Just a cold, heartless threat. Callan's hands curled into fists. They were watching this whole time. Aurelia's eyes filled with tears. I just got him back. I can't lose him now. Callan turned to her, voice low. You won't. Not while I'm breathing. He pulled open a hidden compartment. Inside was something she hadn't seen before. A black case marked with the Earth emblem. He opened it. Inside, a stealth beacon, an old Earth infiltration suit, and an EMP dagger. You were a slave, he said. I was something else once. Aurelia blinked. What? He looked her in the eyes. I wasn't always a mechanic. Asterisk, the suit was black, smooth and scarred from old battles. Callan slid the armor over his arms like he'd done it 1,000 times. Every piece fit perfectly, like it remembered him, and he remembered it. Aurelia watched in silence. He didn't move like a mechanic now. He moved like a soldier. You said you weren't always a mechanic, she said. Callan didn't. Stop strapping the gear. I wasn't. Then what were you? He paused. His voice turned quiet. Earth Unit 9, Shadow Division. She blinked. That's a myth. No, he said, tightening the last strap. It's classified. The Shadow Division wasn't. Written in history files were ghosts, soldiers trained to disappear, to enter silent, leave ash. No medals, no names. Just missions. I left that life, he said, after they started using us to protect things I didn't believe. He looked at her. I only kill for a reason now. Aurelia stepped forward. Then take me with you. Callan shook his head. They won't expect me. Shh. But if they see you, I'm not staying behind again, she said. I was locked away while my child was taken. I won't let someone else fight for him. Studied her and saw it in her eyes. She wasn't asking, she was coming. He reached into the case and handed her a second device, a silver pendant with a red switch. What is it? She asked. Old Earth tech. Fuses with nervous systems. For 1 minute, you'll move faster than anything natural. But it comes at a cost. After the boost, your body crashes hard. She held it tightly. 1 minute is enough. The trade station floated in orbit around a dying moon. Broken ships were docked like bones. Lights flickered, metal groaned. It was a city of shadows, the kind of place where people vanished without a name. Callan docked the Rustwing in a hidden port. Aurelia pulled her cloak tighter around her and followed him into the airlock. He stopped her before the doors opened. You stay 3 steps behind me, he said. If anything feels wrong, I'll feel it before it happens, she said softly. He nodded. Then stay close. Inside the station, heat pressed against their skin. The air was thick with smoke and chemicals. Creatures from a dozen species moved through narrow metal halls. No one made eye contact. Everyone was hiding something. Callan walked like he belonged. Aurelia followed. Her heart beat fast, not from fear, but from something stronger. Her child was near. She could feel it. They entered a market ring. Slavers lined the walkways, showing off young captives behind force fields. Some looked away when Callan passed. Others watched him with interest or fear. Then he saw the symbol, a black star over 3 red lines, the same mark from the transmission. They're here, he said. Aurelia froze, her head turned slightly, left side, behind the red curtain. He's there. Callan didn't ask how she knew, simply moved. They turned down a side hallway, and a guard stepped into their path. Private sector, keep walking. Callan didn't stop. The guard reached for his weapon. Too late. Callan moved like a shadow. His hand snapped forward, twisting the guard's wrist. One strike to the neck, silent. The guard dropped. Aurelia's eyes widened. "You don't fight like a man," she whispered. He glanced at her. "I don't fight fair." Behind the curtain was a cold room, metal walls, harsh lights, and in the center a child inside a containment cell. He sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at nothing. But as soon as Aurelia stepped into the room, his head lifted. Golden eyes, violet skin, human bones. Mama was hurt. Her legs gave out. She fell to her knees, tears already falling. The boy ran toward the glass, pressing his small hands against it. Callan moved to the controls. Security codes locked. "I'll break it." Suddenly red lights flashed. Alarms screamed. Voices shouted outside. Aurelia turned, holding the crystal in her hand. "They're coming." Callan tossed her the pendant. Now or never. Ow. She pressed the switch, and everything changed. Time slowed. Her breath moved like wind in water. Her body felt weightless, sharp, alive. 3 guards burst into the room. She didn't wait. She moved faster than them, faster than thought. Her elbow struck the first in the throat. Stealing his voice, she spun, kicked the second across the wall. The third fired. She bent, dodged, and slammed her palm into his chest. He fell gasping. Then time snapped back. Her legs shook, vision blurred. Callan caught her before she collapsed. "You okay?" She nodded, barely standing. "I'm not losing him." Callan cracked the control panel open and rewired the lock. Oh, the cell opened with a hiss. The boy ran straight into Aurelia's arms. She held him tight, rocking, sobbing softly. "You found me," he said. "I'll never lose you again," she whispered. Then she looked up at Call. The child's gray eyes looked back at him, father and son, finally face to face. The child's small arms clung to Aurelia's neck. She rocked him slowly, her crystal glowing faintly against his chest. It pulsed in rhythm with his heart, like it had waited for this reunion as long as she had. Callan stood nearby, watching. Them not as a soldier now, but as something else, father. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. But they didn't have time. Sirens still rang across the station. Metal doors were locking. His footsteps echoed closer. Callan turned to Aurelia. "We have 2 minutes before this place seals up." She nodded. Her voice was strong again. "Then we move." The boy looked up. "Are we going home now?" Tears still in her eyes. "Yes, but not the old one. A new one." The hall outside was chaos. Guards stormed through with rifles raised. Traders screamed. Slavers tried to protect their merchandise, but none of that mattered now, because Aurelia was no longer afraid. She had her son. She had Callan, and she had herself. Callan took the lead, blaster in hand. His movements were sharp, tactical, fast. But he wasn't just shooting to kill. He was shooting to protect. Aurelia followed behind, holding the child close. The path ahead bent into a sharp corridor, and a tall figure stepped into view. Commander Varn, an old enemy from her past. He wore the symbol of the Black Star Syndicate, the ones who hunted her kind. His armor was polished, his voice cold. "You're not supposed to be alive," he said. Aurelia stepped forward, her cloak falling back. The crystal glowed bright now, not gold, but white-hot. "I'm not supposed to be silent either," she replied. The commander laughed. "You think a child and a broken human will stop what we built?" "No," she said calmly.
Ow!
"But a mother will." She handed the child to Callan, then stepped forward alone. The crystal in her palm burned. Brighter Commander Vaughn raised his weapon, but Aurelia raised her voice first. She spoke in her old tongue, words only remembered by the bloodline of the All. "Valari Courier," the wall shook. Lights flickered, then the commander's weapon shut down, as did his armor, his visor, even the hallway lights. The crystal had unleashed something ancient. Command pulsed the last gift of her people. Varn stepped back, face pale. "No," You enslaved us, Aurelia said. You hunted us. You used our blood to build machines you couldn't control. But you forgot one thing. She pointed at Callan and her son. We adapted. We broke our roots, but we grew new ones. Varn reached for a blade. Callan didn't wait. One shot. Precise. Varn fell. Aurelia turned to him. You didn't hesitate. Callan holstered the weapon. I've had enough of monsters. They reached the Rustwing just before the blast doors closed. The engines were already warm as the ship lifted off. Aurelia sat beside her son. He was tired now, head resting against her side. She looked out the window, her voice soft. All my life, I was told to stay quiet, to serve, to obey. I offered my chains for a future, and I thought I had nothing left to offer. Mom stood behind her, arms crossed. You were wrong. She looked up. You gave me a reason to fight, he said. And now you've got something better than revenge. What's that? He pointed to the boy asleep beside her. Legacy. Later, as the stars passed slowly beyond the ship's glass, Aurelia walked into the cockpit. Callan was alone, staring at a small photo of a younger version of himself in Earth armor. The shadows in his eyes were heavy. I never thought I'd live past that life, he said quietly, let alone start a new one. She placed her hand on his shoulder. You didn't just live, you saved me, and him, and yourself. He turned to her. Where do we go now? She smiled. Anywhere. He smirked. That's a lot of space. She leaned in, forehead against his. Then let's fill it with something better. The Rustwing turned silently through the dark, no longer just a ship. Now, it was a home, and far behind them. Trade Station X-29 burned in silence, a signal of change, of rebellion, of a story rewritten. No longer about a slave girl who begged to be bought. Now, it was about a mother who rose, a human who refused to walk away, and a child born of two broken bloodlines, made strong by love. She had offered chains. He gave her freedom, and together, they made something no empire could. Stop. A future.